received the source material from College Board. I read the Vanishing Voices source material, and there was one quote that really stuck with me, and that is, language is a dialect with an army. And when I first saw this, I drew an immediate parallel with the situation in Hong Kong. Right now, the official languages, the status quo in Hong Kong, is that the language recognized are Chinese and English. But the legal definition of Chinese remains ambiguous, as in, it is not specified whether it is Cantonese or Mandarin, which dialect it is. And China officially promotes in its constitution nationwide consensus of Hong Kong, and there are people of Hong Kong who complain that Cantonese does not receive equal attention in comparison to Mandarin when it comes to education in Hong Kong. And why does this matter? Because language, in the end, it really matters. Because in the end, it has societal and cultural implications, and even political implications. And language may actually become involved in even more tensions among mainland Chinese and Hong Kong, which is already occurring right now with umbrella protests. So with that said, my question was, should Hong Kong more actively pursue Mandarin-oriented education policies? And with that, the first area of examination was, of course, feasibility. Does it even work in the first place? And there seems to be two schools of thought on this. The first, from the Hong Kong Institute of Education, these scholars believe that it is quite feasible, that it is possible, especially considering how Chinese, Mandarin and Cantonese share the same characters, or at least similarly. But there's another school of thought by Li and Meng, who would say, scholars from the University of Hong Kong say that this would be actually quite demanding on these students. And so with these two clashing viewpoints in mind, I decided that the answer would lie in actually going through the perspectives of the people in action. That is, of course, the teachers and the students involved in the classroom. And so the problem is, when I first tried to find the students' perspectives, it was quite challenging. But I did find plenty of teachers' perspectives. And one Chinese teacher reports that whenever she tries to conduct classes in Mandarin, participation level noticeably drops. And then there's another teacher, Wang, whose native tongue is actually Mandarin herself. And she says that it would be actually premature because students, even if they learn Mandarin in the classroom, there's nowhere out there in predominantly Cantonese Hong Kong to actually use this language, and would therefore not help the students in the long run. And lastly, Yao, a scholar from, and then there's also a claim that there's a problem because the teachers themselves are not prepared. The teachers trying to teach Mandarin, their competency level is not yet up there, so that students can actually engage with the teachers. So, with that in mind, the first conclusion on feasibility is that, the thing is premature. Now, does it mean that the bilingual policy itself is not feasible? No, absolutely not. Even the criticism on the teachers were not that bilingual policy itself is wrong, rather it was that it was premature. So that is why it must be a gradual process. And by that, I mean that there should be more investment in the actual teachers themselves. How are the teachers going to teach when they don't even know the language in the first place? And also there should be, and also the students themselves and the infrastructure outside the classroom should be built on more as well. And with that, I move now to the second area examination, which is necessity. Is it even necessary Mandarin in the first place in Cantonese dominated Hong Kong? And the truth is, Hong Kong plays a very unique role because it is the bridge between, in this era of globalization, it is the bridge between China and the West. And what this means is that people who invest in Hong Kong, that be Chinese or Western investors, demand people who can actually speak Mandarin. And that's why Mr. Ao, a parent of a 10-year-old girl, a Hong Kong girl, says that that's why he wants her child to be able to be fluent in Mandarin so that she has a brighter future. And then there's Li Ka-sheng, Hong Kong's richest businessman, who says that yes, Hong Kong must adopt more Mandarin-oriented policies or it will fall behind. It will lose its unique competitive edge in the international world. However, we must also know that this man has a lot of ties with the Chinese Congress and the Chinese government, therefore he may be biased because he would naturally incline towards Mandarin. Well, that aside, one is to analyze less actions hard evidence. That is, The Economist reports that 2/3 of foreign investment, direct investment into China, still goes from Hong Kong. That is solid. And Hong Kong is different than any other mainland city. It also points out because it is less swindled, it is less moved by the Chinese Communist Party because it offers a stable environment that no mainland city can offer. And so with this hard evidence in mind, my conclusion is this. Well, of course, there is a necessity for Mandarin because in the end, in this era of globalization, as businessman pointed out, there will be more interaction with China. And therefore, Mandarin proficiency is necessary. But it must be made clear that we must not over-exaggerate the importance of Mandarin. And that is why I continue to emphasize that this must be a gradual process because we don't need, by tomorrow, every single Hong Kong citizen to speak Mandarin. And lastly, the last area I want to go over is implementation. What do I mean? Because even if we do force upon it, how will the people react? Hong Kong citizens look down on Mandarin as a low language after, and of course, the South China Morning Post and Gao, another scholar I mentioned before. And this is a problem because if there's psychological resistance, then even if we do educate Hong Kong citizens with Mandarin, then it's not going to help them learn it more quickly. And that goes for saying, and this is proven by how recent Chinese University Hong Kong poll recently stated that Mandarin hostility against Mandarin has risen, and that therefore professional levels may deter. But this also goes on the flip side as well. For example, this is a pamphlet in mainland China, which says that other languages speak Mandarin, speak a civilized language, implying that languages, dialects like Cantonese are barbaric. And so I'm going to come back to this point in conclusion. And then about other implementation areas. We must also realize that if we progress too much, if we put too much emphasis on Mandarin, then we're going to lose the social, cultural balance that come with language. For example, an interview by the South China Morning Post with this grandmother. His grandmother complained that she cannot communicate with her granddaughter because they don't speak the same language. And Jonathan Chang, also owner of Art Gallery, also states that Chinese poetry, Cantonese poetry, expressions, drawings, and especially considering how Cantonese is especially linked with ancient Chinese texts, she believes that if Cantonese is too quickly Cantonese quickly fades away because there's too much emphasis on Mandarin, there's more to lose on the cultural aspect than cultural aspect. So that is why Cantonese must be retained. Yeah, so Cantonese must coexist with Mandarin because there is a clear cultural and social value to this. But I'll also like to emphasize how exactly this is going to happen. Obviously, both sides, Mandarin speakers and Cantonese speakers, how much they believe in their language or not, they need to show some restraint. And for example, the Chinese government could take down the offensive, barbaric, civilized poster as shown before, because that is not going to help anyone long term. That's only going to increase more hostility among Hong Kong citizens. On that said, I'd like to end this by giving an overall conclusion. I remind you my question was, should the Hong Kong government pursue Mandarin-oriented policies more aggressively? And my answer is, yes, in the long term, pursuing Mandarin is correct, but it must coexist, go hand in hand with Cantonese. What I mean is that curriculum should be built. It doesn't exist now. The curriculum should be built so that Cantonese and Mandarin have equal status. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.